I missed today. I was out yesterday, but I am back in full force today. Episode 278. We're going to do two stages. We're going to stage 12 of the Giro, 11 of the Giro d'Italia, and then stage 12. There's some, look, came back. We did first day after the rest day, and then it just all hell broke loose. And we are going to cover those in some depth, along with some interviews and whatnot. Stage 11, Camari to Tortona, 219 kilometers. And then Bra, stage 12, Bra to Rivoli, 185 kilometers. And the rain is relentless, people. So we'll just have to deal with that. And then COVID. COVID's taken these people out. And I'm not going to really talk about COVID anymore because it's just, it's what it is. And I think there's too much made of this specific reason that they're leaving, and the reality is they're sick. I mean, I just saw Joe Dombrowski. They're talking to him, and he's like, "I'm throwing up." Okay, so he's contagious, but he's still in the race. So who knows? And then the weather. You listen to a cycling podcast, and all they sound like either RFK on climate or I don't know who they are. Not RFK on the COVID stuff. So there's a lot of crazy shit out there. Anyway, let's get right to it. Let's get to the actual results, or the stage 11, the highlights. It's rainy, and everyone meeting beforehand. You guys already know all this stuff, but we're going to break through it anyway. Evidently, dudes are playing soccer out there, but it was so bad, and there was long stage that they were contemplating with the Riders Association of just canceling this stage altogether. They ended up not doing it, and some of the sprinters teams might have wanted this. Breakaway riders definitely wanted to get the breakaway, and you can see the profile there: 2 climbs, another kicker in there, and kind of the downhill, some windy stuff. And with that in mind, it was definitely going to be a breakaway day. Guys are trying as hard as they can, and does it get a breakaway? Well, you do get a breakaway up the road. These guys are killing it. I don't remember who was in it. Jonathan Milan is up the road as well. But here's where the crazy stuff starts to happen. They go over this top of this first climb, or this big climb, and some of the riders are saying it was the worst they've ever felt. It was so cold. It was all wet. Larry Warbass is saying they couldn't feel a thing. He's shaking. Wanted to go back to the car to get changed. Some riders did go back to the car to get changed, and then it was so cold going down. Anyway, it was just a big problem. But they go around this corner here, this left-hander, and they're not going too fast. It's not like they're blazing out. And right in the middle there, you can see the pink jersey of Geraint Thomas goes down, Roglic goes down, and so does Theo Gegenhardt. And he's laying on the ground. Just you can see this here. He's laying on the ground. There's nothing really going on. And he doesn't really get up. And we'll talk about it, go through kind of the whole thing there, but he broke his hip. So, and by the way, when some of these wet roads like this, you slide, it's almost better when it's wet because you just slide and there's not a lot of like grip that's happening to just tear you to pieces. But sometimes when you just fall directly, without much speed, but directly on like your hip, I've had that. I've been after a race, I had my bag of wheels. I was riding over to my car and the gear was too hard, and I got stuck and I couldn't get my feet out of the pedals, and I just fell over on my side going 0. And what happened with that was I had hip trouble for weeks on end, months, because it was so bruised. Anyway, so sometimes that's the case. And I tend to think either fell on someone or it just happened right. But then right after this, you get Oscar Rodriguez. Look at this. He hit this sign here, but you can see this house is just right on the road. Evidently, he missed the house, but both of them taken away in stretchers. So bummer for him. I mean, this could have been really bad. You hit your head on something like that, you can end up dying. I don't know what did happen, but Zani for Team Trek hits the front here because they want to give it to a sprint for Mads Pedersen. In the end, they do pull the brake back and they do get it for a contested sprint. And some more guys are going down in the last 1.5K inside the last 3 kilometers, so it's not much of a problem. What's interesting about this one, we'll go through this last corner here, and they come into the 4 or 500 to go. You've got several riders well positioned. Mark Cavendish is third wheel. He's behind Mads Pedersen, who has a lead out. Everything's looking good. Look, things start to just go a little bit weird when you're in situations like this. We saw this before where they couldn't, with Magnus Cort Nilsson, stage 10, they couldn't bring him back because the sprinters teams didn't have enough people up there. And that's what you're going to have. You're having a lot of attrition. It's the Tour of Italy. There's a lot of climbing. They get over some of these climbs like this one. And what happened here is you just don't hate these great sprint trains. Now, Mads is in good position. He's behind his rider, you can see the road up ahead there. It's a little bit of a gradual uphill. Launching early, it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but he does end up going early. Now, part of this issue you have out here, Ackerman's on, he's up pretty close. You've got way back here. Let's see if we can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 9th or 10th, if not 12th back is Jonathan Milan. Now, that's not a good position to be in. He messed up by doing that. And you're going to see, so they start to head out here. Mads Pedersen's teammates leading the charge. Mads ends up jumping. Cavendish gets on his wheel and goes hard as well. Pascal Ackermann of UAE, though, ends up springboarding past both of them. And you can see it's a drag here to the line. Mads peters out. But over on the far left of our screen, you see Jonathan Milan really making a move. Now, coming through that corner, he was like 12th. And it ends up being where, let's see if we could get to that. I had it here when we started here. Ackermann actually posts up, and then Milan kind of gives him a finger like, but they both celebrated after. Here's the overhead. You can see this here. Cavendish was doing his best to hold on, just to maybe a little bit too long. Mads Pedersen did fade, and then Cavendish ends up getting third, and you can see the bike throw here. Ackermann does get him by, I don't know, a few centimeters. So what's I don't know if we could really break it back through too much, but what's really the breakdown there? Well, part of it is Milan, great sprint, and everybody's like, wow, look at all that power. But I remember this when I was first, moving up through the ranks, and similar, especially like the Cat 2, the 3s or the 4s, even when I was first going here, I would end up coming to a sprint finish and I'd get like third. I was always getting in the top 10, had a good kick, especially compared to like a lot of the riders that were there. But I was coming from so far back, and part of it was obviously positioning, right? As a sprinter, I mean, he has all this speed, but coming from 12 back, that's just ridiculous. Now, some of that reason why he's able to come through is because he's actually put himself in a position where he's getting a lot of slipstream this whole way. So there's a lot of timing that's part of this. So he really screwed up by being back so far. Now, he's won a sprint here, so it's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. Once I finally figured out, you got to spend some energy to be up front, to be in that position to actually be able to use your kick. Things start to turn around, and you start to get wins and much better placings. And then you're going against guys who can sprint well too. So if he had moved himself up, been able to come out of the even out of the wind a little bit, later, or when he needed to, timing wise, you never know what could have happened with Jonathan Milan. But he was looking pretty good there. Okay, Brian Jimdy joins in. If Cav hopes to win a Tour de France stage, he is going to need more fitness than this. He's getting out-kicked 200 meters from the line by second-tier sprinters. Okay, not wrong, but I think he is coming through this. You're not seeing his main goal is the Tour de France. This is a long kick. Mads Pedersen is no slouch. Ackermann is necessarily no slouch. Now, they're not top tier as well. And so fitness is a different thing, but you're not seeing Cavendish necessarily fading. I mean, he's kind of kicking up there. I don't know how much longer he's going to go. If you were to see him not even be close, and like this stage as an example, comes through third, that's a really long sprint. I mean, I think Mads opened it up from 400. It's a long sprint. Cav can do those, but he doesn't have a train. There's all these other issues. So for him, I think you are actually seeing him progress his fitness-wise. He got over some of those climbs the day before with stage 10, which you wouldn't expect. So I think he's actually going to be looking pretty good. The biggest factor you're going to see him at the Tour is the team. I mean, Joe Dombrowski has been piloted him along in this Tour, which Joe's like, the other day he was getting dropped on the climb. I just kind of kept riding because I'm like, I don't know what to do. I've never helped a sprinter out. and then had to go to his room afterwards and kind of apologize. And so they've been kind of doing things, and he's been trying to help him. He being Joe Dombrowski helping Cavendish on the climbs, but he's like, I don't know what's going on here. So that's going to be, I think, the bigger problem that Cavendish might actually have. So after the stage, Pascal Ackermann, Milan, second, Cavendish, third. I mean, that's decent up there. Mads Pedersen, Stano Oldani, Albanese, Mary Offer, Ballerini, Simone Cassoni, and Arne Marit. Yeah, but you're right, Brian. That's not top tier sprinters. Geraint Thomas finally gets to take the the pink jersey because your boy Remco is no longer part of the race. He DNS'd. So he was in the lead, but they gave it to Geraint. At least let him wear the pink jersey. Roglic 2 seconds back. Almeida. There was a few. I think we could maybe look and see. There was a stage we'll talk about. The next one. Let's go right to today's stage, stage 12. And then we'll do maybe we should, and then we'll do some interviews about both of those and everything. Actually, before we get there, let's actually take a few looks at some interviews, because I think we want to talk about some of those from that stage here. Stage 11, before the start, let's talk to Will Barta. Let me know if you can't hear this.
Will, give us some news first. I think you crashed yesterday.
Yeah,
it was a pretty heavy crash. Tell us, how are you?
Yeah, good. Luckily, no, I have to say I'm quite lucky with the results of it. I mean, it was a really big bummer to crash and lose the time, but my body's quite okay after that impact. So.
And how is the body also reacting after all these days under the rain?
Yeah.
Really hard conditions. Some riders said they have done a few Giro d'Italia, and it's probably the hardest so far.
Yeah, I mean, I've only done one before. Last year we were really lucky with the weather, so maybe this year we're paying for it a bit. But I mean, last week I think I was a bit sick with it from the weather and my stomach and things like this, but luckily now it's been better.
And today, do you think it will be a sprint, maybe with Fernando, or do you have to cover also the other possibility of a breakaway?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we want it to be a sprint with Fernando, so we're going to do everything we can to control it for a sprint today.
And do you think it's today a stage which is more favorable for sprinters? Because we have seen few breakaways going to the end on this Giro.
Yeah.
Is the terrain better for the sprinter team?
I think it's a bit better. I think it's a little bit of easier roads to control on, and the climbs aren't quite as hard and they're more spread out. So I think it should be a sprint today.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Have a good race.
All right. That's what Will Barta said. So let's do a few more. Oops, hang on. Let's do a few more of these from that stage. I think Roglic said something. That's the start there. Sorry, videos. We're on that one. Joe Dombrowski, that's it. The start. Let's talk about Roglic in this crash.
She got stuck. Can you just tell us how are you? We have seen the crash.
Oh yeah, you can see I have still some meat out. So yeah, we take a shower and I'm still here. So okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Not much saying on that part. Okay, so that was kind of a bust. Almeida at the start. Let's see. Oh, this is the finish. I do want to kind of get a few of these finish in conversations here about this crash. Here we go.
First of all, Geraint Thomas, your condition. Tell us something about the crash. Dici qualcosa riguardo la tua caduta e le tue condizioni.
I'm very lucky, actually. I'm absolutely fine. I got a little graze on my hip, but the Covey, the UAE guy that came down, I just landed on him. And then the boys behind came off worse, obviously. Obviously, Teo went to hospital. I saw Roglic at the finish. He had a big fleshy sort of cut. So, yeah, and then obviously Pavel as well, came down pretty hard. So it was really unfortunate, really unfortunate.
But you are good now.
Yeah. I feel fine. As I say, I landed on Covey, so I had a bit of a soft landing. So I was lucky.
Okay, thank you very much.
What did change about the strategy of the team? You had 2 cars. Now there's only you.
Yeah, obviously that changes quite a lot, really. I've said before, Teo was not really a secret weapon because everyone knew how well he was going, but he was 5 seconds behind. He was, I do all this and he goes to the bus and rests properly and does everything right. And he was a great chance of winning this Giro, and it would be a massive asset to the team to have 2 of us there. But that's bike racing, isn't it? And things change quickly, and we have to adapt. And yeah, as I say, it's a big loss, but we have to just move forward.
We often say that the worst after a crash 48 hours later. In 48 hours, a mountain stage. Are you a bit worried about it?
Myself, no, but Yeah, Roglic, he's a tough cookie though. He's had his fair share of crashes, and he doesn't feel pain like most of us, I think. So I think he'll be fine, and hopefully Pavel's good, and we'll see.
We saw this little chat between you and Roglic right after the finish line.
Yeah, he just came over to see how I was, and I was okay. I was just surprised to see his hip. Really, it didn't look nice. But yeah, just asking each other how they were really.
Any news about Theo? Because after the finish line, Koen Bouwman said that Theo said to him, "Probably my leg broke."
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's gone to hospital. I haven't heard anything yet. I heard leg or hip, but I don't know. It's all speculation at the minute. But hopefully, it's nothing too serious.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. Well, it was the hip. It was a broken hip, so it's a bit serious enough that it's yeah. We'll get back to some of these, and we're gonna break down a little bit of the stages. I want to go through there and kind of see who's been. And then there was an article. Let's see if I can find it here before maybe we'll do it while we're walking through this about all the crashes and who's all the abandoned. There we go. I'll have that set up for the next one. Okay, so let's do stage 12. And then we'll kind of just work our way through all of these. So this is today's stage. Another rainy day, to Rivoli, 185 kilometers. Tomorrow's the big one. So when I joined in, there was a breakaway up the field, up the road there that looked like it was almost half of the field, if not. By the way, Brian made some comments here. With all the DNFs, it's a miracle. The two crashiest riders ever, Thomas and Roglic, are still in it. Bubble wrap those two. I don't know if they're the crashiest riders ever, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Is he calling Covey fat? Perhaps. I don't know if anybody in one of the Grand Tours is fat, but he's definitely saying I landed on something meaty. Okay, we get her going. The break it's up the road. It's a big group. You've got several Trek riders. You've got a Bora rider, an Astana rider, two Jumbo riders, which are Sepp and Hessman. So it's a little bit interesting in there. And then, they're taking points. They're doing what they can. There's, it's rainy. It's gross. 90 some kilometers. The group starts splitting off. You get a group of 4 up the road. Arlen, Scaroni, Tom Squeens, and Breschel. What's the other guy's name? Well, he ends up bridging up there. Let's just get up to the road. There's a lot of shit going on here. There he goes. It's an Australian Breswick. I think that's his name. These 3 are going. And as they're doing one of the last climbs here, Tom Squeens is really putting the hammer down, and you're getting what's this guy? Now I'm going to have to look at his names here. Let's see. Everyone probably already knows. I knew that this morning when I was watching it. Nico Denz, Tom Squeens, and Sebastian Berwick. You had Alessandro Tonelli. He gets dropped first, and then you start seeing some of these other riders. Breswick was having some trouble on the climb. He was really digging deep. He gets dropped, comes back up to Squeens, and then kind of takes over himself. And they were putting the hurt to Nico Denz. In hindsight, they should have put more of the hurt to him. Get rid of him. But you also need everyone to help you along. Now, they had a good gap, 2+ minutes or 3 minutes on the chase group. That chase group had Bert Bettiol, which, by the way, we showed his little crash and incident the other day. And then you had Sepp Kuss and Hessman. They kind of all, that group behind was formulating itself. Some dropping back to the main group, some not. But they were like 3 minutes back. So these guys had plenty of time. At one point here, Nico Denz puts on a real big attack before we get to the finish. Maybe we'll show it that yet. Puts on a real big attack, and Tom Squeens is like 8 kilometers or so out. Tom Squeens ends up being able to jump across him. It took him a while to kind of get there. It was a little soft uphill. And Sebastian had a tougher time getting there. Matter of fact, he was gapped off. But then the two got together, the up front, Denz and Squeens, and they were trying to pull through, but Squeens had taken so much effort to get up to Denz that he couldn't just pull through right away. So he had to sit on a little bit. All this allowed Sebastian to, what's his name here? Sebastian Berwick. It allowed him to, Israel Primotek, allowed him to get back up to the group. And then there was 3 of them. And then, and I don't have it here. I was going to snip it off this morning, but then the 3 of them are riding, and there you can kind of see here, they're trying to get Berwick to pull through. And he actually says to them, "I'm not doing shit." And you can hear it from the camera. And then the GCN announcers are like, hey, you know, I hope that didn't offend anybody. I'm like, really? Anyway, so he said he's not doing shit and he wasn't pulling through. And part of that is because he was pulling through. He was contributing just fine. And then they attack him. And at that point, you're just kind of like, okay, what's the point here? I'm not going to get caught from behind. And I'm definitely not going to have much of a sprint. They come down through the finish and, you know, none of these, I mean, Squeens has won some races. I don't think the other two guys had won any UCI races here. So they come down through and Nico Denz was kind of leading it out. He hits out hard. They all kind of have a three-way across the road there. Immediately, Berwick is distanced, has a gap. He sits up, and Nico Denz just drills it to the line. Second German in a row on back-to-back days to win the stage. Tom Squeens puts his head down, can't do much about it, and Nico was very, very excited. The rest of the field comes in. Tom Sawyer got with a little bit of sprinting. But Nico Den, Squeens, Berwick, Tonelli was just hanging out there. Marco Frigo, he did give a shot out for a while. It looks like he got caught, and then I think he must have gapped him again. Van Wilder, Betial, Scaroni, Hessman, Alex Bowden. So there you go with the results on the day for that stage. Now, let's just walk ourselves through some of these results. I'm going to kind of see who's out and about, and then we're going to also do a little bit of news stories here. Okay, so I guess to start back with stage 11, which everyone just said was horrible. You started the day here with some DNSs, Tesfacion, Gundin, Caedo, Van Durham, Vermaca, John Hurt, Joseph Kearney, Cantaneo, Oscar Rodriguez. Those are all the DNSs. And then the DNFs were just the two, Oscar Rodriguez and Theo Gegenhardt. Anybody losing big time on the day? I mean, 18 minutes out, 15 minutes out, which is pretty good for how you consider Joe Dombrowski loses a bunch of time here. How you consider how bad the weather was. Now everyone just hated it. For the most part, everyone kind of got up and over. So we've talked about the GC for that one. The points, Jonathan Milan still in the points jersey. KOM Davide Bais, good 54 points over Thibaut Pinot. That's going to change tomorrow, I imagine. Joao Almeida is a young rider. I had said Remco. He's going to be winning this, but obviously he's not in there. And youth jersey and the team's jersey goes to Ineos Grenadiers. That's out through stage 11. EF moves themselves up to second place. But now let's go into stage 12. We already saw that. Let's go down to the bottom here. Once again, Covey, that's who, maybe he wasn't so fat because he got landed on by Geraint Thomas. We just heard that. He's a DNS for the day. Van Houke didn't finish. Caden Groves quit. Miguel Charel quit. And then you're getting guys coming in, 25 minutes out. For the most part, everyone was at kind of in that 20 range. Jay Vine loses another 20 minutes. Dombrowski said he was sick as a dog, so he's 20 minutes out there. It'd be nice to see him. Will Barta made it in with the main group. So nothing real big there. Sepp Kuss ended up coming in. So just want to talk about that real quick. You have Hessman. Let's say here. What days does the trainers recommend a muscular recovery day for the Giro d'Italia? Now they get a massage. That's a Victor. Thanks for your comment. They do get a massage every day. Okay, so that's the first part. As far as a recovery, they have 2 rest days, usually on the 2 Mondays. The first Monday we just had, and the second Monday they're just having it again, or they'll have it this next week. And that's really all they get. And you hear riders say different things, and I'm not sure if this is exactly what your question is, but you hear riders say different things. Some say, like Lance Armstrong was famous for saying during those rest days he would ride hard because you don't want your body to kind of be in this weird state of relaxing for that. So for him, it was almost more of a pain. He'd rather ride through and not have a rest day. Other guys, especially if you're not feeling well, if you're coming off a crash, just said Roglic is having some flesh wounds there. Sometimes you need those days to help you get through, or just an extra day of recovery that you might not have. So uncomfortableness and whatnot. I don't know if, so it's everybody's different on those. As far as your recovery goes, I mean, you could only do so much. So you've got, every day you've got a stage, you've got something to do. It's what it is. And, hopefully they're getting their massages and everything else in There we go. Let's go there. Okay, so back up just a bit. Sipkus is in the break, and you're like, why is he up there? Because they had a climb. He wouldn't be dropped. He kind of wasn't in that group. And then he was kind of up there group. I tend to think that there's a few things. One, I don't know how or why he got into there, but he was. Maybe they were trying to move some things up for Team GC. Maybe they just wanted someone up front in case something had happened and you had to fall back for it. Maybe because it didn't look like they were really going for that stage win with he or Hessman until like it's too late. That's when there's tomorrow is a big day in the mountains, so they're going to need Sepp Kuss, and they don't want him, out. Maybe they were concerned that there's crashing or whatnot, so just get you guys out of there. I don't know what the point of having those two up the road, but nevertheless, they were up there. What I do want to look here is to take the GC and we'll start walking our way through these teams to just see who has got 5 riders for AG2R, Alpecin 4, Astana. They've got a pretty full contingent. Bahrain does as well. Bora, they're 2, 4, 6. Cofidis about 6 or 7. EF 2, 4, 6. Elo 7. Green same. Groupama 6, Ineos 6, 2, 4, 6. So they're down, and it's more concerning with the big teams. So maybe I'll just jump to some of the big teams. Jumbo, they lost 1. They got 2, 4, 6, 8. So did they lose anybody? And they're looking pretty good. Movistar, they're down 1. Sodal, they've got 3 left. So it would have been really interesting to see how they would have done with Remco, with the whole team getting wiped out with COVID. AG2 Arkea, Comatec, DSM, they're a little bit shy on the teams. Jayco's still up there. Trek, nice contingent for them. So look, a lot of the teams are still doing fine. That will be an interesting thing. I did look at some stats as far as like races before, how many they've lost and whatnot, due to weather. And the weather is always going to be bad in Italy. So this isn't an abnormal thing. People get sick all the time. So yeah, those issues going through. All right, there we go. Okay, I wanted to bring up, let's do some interviews after the stage of 12. I think there's maybe possibly some things we can learn from here. Interview at the start of stage 12, Joe Dombrowski.
Non, je parle juste pour le Giro, Nathan. Joe, well, tell us how are you surviving that terrible Giro with terrible conditions? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's not been super this last week. I got sick around the day of the TT and just had even yesterday I had to stop on the side of the road because I was, like a lot of vomiting and diarrhea. And so I'm just kind of looking to survive these few days. And then I hope to do a good last week because actually my condition before the Giro was quite good. So if I can get past this illness, then yeah.
You're not the only one, but you're quite unlucky then this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of riders in the bunch that are sick. And my thinking is like, if you can just survive, it's better to survive. And then you have a chance the last week to win a stage. But if you go home, then yeah.
And so I will ask your expert analysis. What do you think of today? It's a good one for the breakaway.
It's going to be for the breakaway, I think, yes. For who? We could put 30 names on the paper, but a good climber, but maybe also a climber who can finish fast in a sprint. Because I don't see any team the only team maybe who would control is for Matthews, but then also you can put Matthews in the break and maybe he can win. So we'll see.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Nice recovery. Yeah.
All right, I don't think Astana's gotten a stage win yet, so they're still kind of hoping for that interview at the start. Let's see, Primos.
No, I was away, so a couple of grams lighter.
Tell us how are you, Primoz, after yesterday?
Like you saw, lost a bit of meat, so a bit lighter.
But how do you feel this morning? Stiff a bit, I guess?
Yeah, everything a bit, but we'll see now on the bike pretty soon how it goes. But yeah, keeping positive and keep smiling.
That's quite a crazy Giro, no? I mean, between the COVID, the crashes, how do you cope with that?
I need to survive. It's really now. I mean, at the end, yeah, you have to be through, and it's not. How you say it, like Rocky said, how much you can hit, but how much you can get hidden. And yeah, I mean, we are still here, and yeah, we go on.
Yeah, keep a big smile.
Thank you.
You have a good you have a good morale. I mean, you keep a big smile even when you crash.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, you need to.
Yeah, he's a positive guy, but he does crash a lot, so maybe that's why he's always smiling. Geraint Thomas, here Nico. This here Bergewijk. This is a short one. Bergewijk.
Like my sort of last opportunity, I guess, but yeah, just in the end, they were strong enough to stay with me, and then yeah, that flat, I got distance on that last attack, and it was a bit like fuck, you know, yeah, I didn't have much left. Calves were cramping a bit, so that's how life went. So yeah, didn't have much in the sprint, obviously. You know, 58 kilos versus 75 is a bit hard to win, but you know, I tried my best out there, and yeah, we'll go again tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah, you kept on fighting.
Yeah, well, obviously I kept fighting. It's a Giro stage, and I was in the hunt for a win. So yeah, you never know what happens. You know, Stephen Bradbury and all that.
It will come for your team eventually.
Yeah, hopefully 2 seconds and a third now. So yeah, we're biting at it. So yeah, we hope it comes soon. Thank you.
All right, that's the last one. And should we do Geraint Thomas? Perhaps. At least that was him at the start. Let's go to him at the finish.
Geraint, I have to say it was an easy day, but it was maybe a quieter day finally when driving this big derby.
Yeah, probably the best weather they've had in the Jersey so far, and yeah, the most uneventful, which was a nice feeling. And for the boys, they made the day possible like that. It was incredible. They got the right break. We weren't too bothered about how many, as long as there was no one on GC. And then yeah, the boys rode all the way to the line then. And yeah, you know, Swifty Puccio early on, and then Pavel did about 40 okay on the front. So I think he showed that he's a tough cookie, and he's all good.
And how do you feel after the crash of yesterday?
Fine. I've only had a tiny little cut on my hip, but yeah, as I said before, I landed on top of Covey, so it's a soft landing for me.
What do you expect about tomorrow? It's a big day for this second week. Maybe not the only decisive day, but a big one. What do you think? How do you see things?
Yeah, it's definitely the first big test. You know, we haven't really raced to the top of a long mountain. So yeah, we'll see. It's you know, I think the weather's going to come into it as well. It's bad conditions, so yeah, we'll see.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and yeah, Brian, I will take a look at the course profile in a second here. But I wanted to take a look first at two news issues. So first one we'll bring up here is talked about Theo Gegenhardt abandons after fracturing hip. That's kind of what he's sitting third, and he went down. He was riding really good. It's a little bit of a bummer. However, Gegenhardt came down the heaviest, unable to cushion his fall like Geraint Thomas did on Covey, which left him on the road while others remounted and continued his racing. Shortly afterwards, a 20-year-old was put in the back of a race ambulance on the back of a stretcher, heading to the hospital in Genoa. Later on Wednesday evening, the team confirmed that he had suffered a fractured left hip, which would require surgery. It's too bad. Immediately following the involvement in the crash, today's stage 11 of the Giro, Theo Gegenhardt was transported to a local hospital in Genoa. Ineos Grenadiers posted on Twitter. After a further assessment, imaging confirmed that Theo had sustained a fracture of the left hip, which will require surgery. Theo, the thoughts and best wishes to our fellow Grenadiers are with you tonight. The statement continued. We wish you a speedy recovery and know you have what it takes to come back even stronger. You know, look, I hope it's not too bad of a problem. And the reason there's a few people that have had these kind of bad wrecks. Yosheba Baloki, he's the one that famously, let's go to this one. He's the one that famously crashed with Lance Armstrong when he went through the field. He high-sided, went over, broke his hip, and he was never the same. I don't know if he just wasn't getting the drugs coming through correctly, but he was never quite the same. And you've seen the crash. Now, Theo was much younger. And then the crash, obviously, that was much worse than probably what Theo has here, but Froome, and he's not quite been the same either. Let's take a look at this. Sepkus gets his fingers caught in spokes. I could change a derailleur battery, but taking off my shoe covers got me. I was taking off my shoe covers and my hand went into the front wheel. Now, maybe that was today. Maybe that was why he was chasing back on. I can change a battery, but taking off my shoe covers got me, he added, joking how he had managed to change a battery in his bike at high speed during stage 3, but was not so lucky this time. The 2023 Giro d'Italia has been beset by crashes. Jumbo Visma leader Primo's coming down stage 11, along with Teo, left the race with a broken hip. 28-year-old Kuss is now a seasoned professional. Remember, won a stage in the Vuelta and one in the Tour de France. He's now a seasoned. He appears to understand that crashes, injuries, and daily stress, Grand Tour racing is part of the sport. There's been a lot of incidences. That's unfortunate, but that's how it goes in pro cycling. Sometimes these easier, quote, days are when you can lose the most just by bad luck. It's important to do these days as best we can. Saddened by the Teo crash. Primo's crashed, but compared to Teo, things can always be worse. We know that, he said. It's best not to think about it too much, because if you start to worry about it, then it costs you energy. Crashes aren't things you can control. You have to focus on doing your best, staying healthy and staying out of trouble. Primoz is good. Even when he crashes like today, he can always look on the bright side, and he's still in a perfect place. The hard stages are coming. I think he's feeling good, and I think he's growing into his best form. So we're excited to see how the Giro plays out. Now, possibly, I mean, part of the problem you may have is, just the recovery from crashes that's difficult to do. Let's go through one thing here that Tour abandons. This was kind of an interesting breakdown. Stage 1, you had one abandon. Stage 5, and that was due to illness. Then a fractured pelvis for Conti. Undisclosed reason for Remy Rochus. Stomach problems for Cinq de Lam. Stage 6, just one Clement Rousseau COVID. That's when you started seeing all these COVID ones. Stage 6, stage 7, you had 2 COVID. Then you had stage 8, you got COVID, stomach problems, gastroenteritis, stomach problems, undisclosed. Stage 9, crash injuries. Stage 10 was the first big one that took a bunch of people out. That Remco, Iran, COVID, DNS pre-planned rest. So Stefan Kung was evidently planning to come out, but I think he had not been feeling well either. COVID, Pozzovivo, Mads Schmidt, illness, Bystrom, COVID, stomach problems for Rene Terame, diarrhea. It's bad enough they can't just say stomach problems. They actually had the list. This dude has diarrhea, people, and we need to put it on the official record. Scotsson had COVID, crash injuries with Tusfeld. Patelli had an illness. Feder an illness. COVID for Vlasov. COVID for John Hurt. Vervaca, COVID. Caneo, COVID. Cherny, COVID. Vandram, COVID. Gondin, COVID. Flew for Tetzfacion. Cairo had illness, viral illness. Who knows that is? AIDS. Isn't that Gegenhardt had a crash, and Rodriguez had a crash, and then stage 12, Covey crash, stomach problems for Caden Groves, Cherel stomach fatigue and stomach for Van Houke. I mean, only one of them had diarrhea in the field, so that was a bummer. They had that list, the list that he had. I had diarrhea. Oh, let me 2 stories. Sepp Kuss getting his hand. I did that once. We did a race when I was racing out in Colorado, and race was done. Teammate and I just decided to go for a ride, and our team Swan-Year owner, whatever, gave me some gloves. I just wanted some gloves. It's kind of chilly. So he gave me these gloves, and they just have to be like motocross gloves, which I never wore before. Put them on, and this is back in the days before the wireless stuff, and I had a mount down to my computer sensor on my front wheel, and I was kind of jimming with it, and I got my hand stuck into the front spokes, and it immediately just boom put me over, did a flip on my back. I still have it ripped those gloves open, but if they hadn't, they were like motocross and super strong, and if they hadn't been that kind with the extra padding on there, I just was wearing them to keep warm, I probably would have ripped my thumb off. But I mean, I have a huge scar on it still to this day. Diarrhea story. Doing a race out Garden of the Gods. Lance Armstrong, everyone was out there. I think it was 96 because everyone was kind of gearing up for Colombia. That's where the World Championships were that year. And I wasn't going to go to Colombia for the World Championships, but no one wanted to go train there because Colombia was so dangerous. So they came to another high altitude place, which was Colorado, and we were putting on this big race. I got so sick in between. I drank some water, I think the week before, that was not potable from a race. And I had mass. I was doing the bike race with a bottle of Pepto in my back pocket. drinking it. It was a lovely experience. I think that's. Oh, let's look at the race profile for tomorrow, as Brian wanted us to do. All right, there you go. So 199 kilometers. So it's still a fairly long race. Let's go here. Try to do something. 199 times 0.62, 123 miles with, sorry, I probably could have done it an easier way, but 123 miles is still a long slog with a Cat 1, a bonus sprint halfway up the next Cat 1. Come on, people, that's a stupid place. Top of the Cat, and then you have last Cat 1. So 3 Cat 1s. The last one's 12.9 kilometers, 7.3%. The other one, second one is 15.5 kilometers at 8.6. Another one is 25.9 kilometers at 5%. So that one gets a Cat 1 grading just by the long distance, not quite as steep. Second one's a little bit more steep at 8.6, which means you're going to get some, you can see some of these here. The Montaña, although they did say, I think maybe this is the Montaña, the finish is going to be changed. I did hear that news flash on something. So this might not have the right finish on it because they said with the weather and everything, they weren't able to get up to the top. So I don't know if we have anything on cycling news about the next day. Let's take a look here. Giro stages. I don't see, oh, there we go. Stages, stage 12, stage 13. I mean, they have it there. They don't really say, they don't say anything here about it being changed, but I think it might be. So keep that in mind. Might not have that kicker at the, or they're going up a different route, or maybe it's shortened. I don't know, but I did hear, I think it was Cycling Podcast said that the Montaña, and I wasn't sure which stage they were talking about, but it looks like it's tomorrow. So there you go. So that'll be an interesting one. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Friday, so that we have that. I probably should have not taken this down. We have that, and then I think their Saturday is not so good, but I think Sunday might have a stage that's somewhat exciting or somewhat okay. While this is going out, I'm almost there. Stage 13, okay. Stage 14. Hang on, people. Stage 14. It's got one climb and then flat, so that won't be a problem. And then 15 that's mountainous too, but it's a downhill finish. So I don't know. Tomorrow, big day. We'll see if Roglic is recovered. We'll see who else can do it. You may have Luke Nason winning this thing by everyone else just crashing out. Some guy that's maybe Will Barta has a chance, 23rd place. He ends up coming in the wins. Like, is this how you wanted to win? I'm fine with it. All right, everybody. Till tomorrow. See you. Bye.